One of the most talked about topics in basketball is who the best player in the NBA is. With the rise of young stars like Luka and Jayson Tatum, the next generation is starting to surpass some of the stars that have been dominating the league for a long time. So with that being said, here's my top 10 best players going into the 2023 season. Starting off the list with number 10, I have Kawhi Leonard. The last time Kawhi was on the court was in the 2021 playoffs, where he was shaping up to have one of the best playoff runs of his career, averaging 30 points per game while shooting 57% from the field and 39% from three. But after missing the entire 2021-2022 season while recovering from a torn ACL, the Clippers superstar has been out of sight. Missing the entire season has caused him to slide down my personal rankings while the others have risen, but I want it to be known if he is healthy when he returns to play, he will still be one of the most dominant players in the NBA. With the Clippers predicted to be a top seed next season, he will have a chance to remind people of how good of a scorer and defender he is. The truth is that Kawhi is a top 5 player in the league if he's at full strength, and next season he will just have to prove it. You might be mad watching this, seeing that I have him on the list considering he hasn't played in over a year. It was a really close call between him and Ja Morant, but I went with Kawhi because I've seen more of him before he was injured. This season, Ja can easily take his spot, we just have to see how Kawhi performs. Although the competition was tough for the number 9 spot, it's hard not to give it to Jimmy Butler after this year's playoff performance. He carried the Miami Heat offense through the postseason and gave his team, who's clearly the underdog, a chance to advance to the NBA Finals. His 47-point playoff game in Game 6 with the Heat's back against the wall on the road is one of the best playoff performances I've seen in a long time. You have to consider that this is a player that struggles beyond the three-point line and shot 4 for 8 from deep in the biggest game of the season. He took his game to another level when it mattered most, and for that, I feel like you have to put him in the top 10 best players in the league right now. He's had his issues, but over the 17-game stretch in the postseason, he had 27, 7, and 4, and that doesn't even show what he did on the defensive side of the court. At number 8, I have LeBron James. LeBron entered the NBA in 2003, and by the end of the 2004 season, he was in the conversation of the top 5 players in the league, and he hasn't left that status until last season. Don't get me wrong, he's arguably the greatest to ever do it, with 18 consecutive All-NBA and All-Star appearances, but there are just 5 players who are simply younger and more valuable. Some will look at this past season from LeBron with a lazy perspective and point out that the Lakers missed the playoffs for a second time in 4 years and leave him out of the top 10. But the reality is that when he's on the floor, only a select few are better. It is crazy that someone finishing their second decade playing a sport can average 30 plus points per game. At age 37, the fact he's still expected to contend and be a dominant player every game is remarkable, but can he turn his individual brilliance into team success once more as his career comes to an end? There might be some slight bias with this one, but I have KD at number 7. Kevin Durant has received a lot of backlash for his performance against the Boston Celtics, and rightfully so. When you're a player of his stature, you are held to different standards than most. That playoff series could end up being the worst of his career when you consider they were swept with Kyrie Irving available for all 4 games. One of the most efficient scorers the game has ever seen was held to only 38% shooting for 4 games, along with 21 turnovers. The Celtics were doing everything defensively to stop KD, having 2 or even 3 defenders following his every step, but there's no excuse to play that bad when you're a top 5 player in the world. However, with all the changes that occurred to the Nets this season, Durant still had them 1 game behind the 1 seed while leading the league in scoring at 27.9 points per game before his injury. That was with Kyrie missing most of the season and Harden simply underperforming. If he played better against the Celtics, I would have him higher, but he's at 7 for now. My number 6 spot goes to Jayson Tatum. For the past 3 seasons, Tatum has been progressing towards being a top-tier player, being named an All-Star each year while also picking up 2 All-NBA selections. His scoring, rebounding, and assist averages rise each season. Now, he's having the postseason run to only add to his resume, becoming one of the best players in the world. In the first round, he wiped the floors with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. He then helped lead the Celtics past the reigning champion Milwaukee Bucks in the second round, highlighted by his 46-point bomb in Game 6 on the road to hold off elimination. After, he headed to the NBA Finals after outplaying Jimmy Butler in the Eastern Conference Finals. He has already led his team to 3 series victories over teams with players on this list. If he was able to finish his run off with a win against Curry and the Warriors, I would probably have him in the top 5. To kick off my top 5, I have Joel Embiid. If there's one thing you can't question, it's his toughness and ambition to win. Say what you want about his game, but returning to the conference semifinals against the Heat to play with an orbital fracture and a torn ligament in his thumb shows his drive to win. Unfortunately, his return wasn't enough to get the Sixers to the next round, and there's a hole in his basketball resume as he has yet to make an Eastern Conference Finals once in his career. Despite last season's result, Embiid had another special year, finishing second again in the MVP conversation while leading the league in scoring. At number 4, I have NBA champion Steph Curry. The idea that Curry and the Warriors are done being title contenders seems pretty stupid now. After missing the playoffs the last 2 seasons, they managed to beat all odds and win their 4th title, and the greatest shooter of all time is once again showing that he is also one of the greatest players ever. After what appeared to be a bad regular season, shooting a career-low 43.7% from the field and 38% from 3, many fans lost hope. Curry has proven once again that he's an all-time great, leading his team to their 6th finals appearance in the last 8 years. He will likely never reach the high peaks that he was able to reach from 2014 to 2017, but he is still one of the biggest threats on a basketball court, because his presence alone raises the team's floor and ceiling significantly. With a 4th championship and his first finals MVP, it's hard to argue that he is not a top 5 player. The 3rd best player in my opinion is 2-time MVP Nikola Jokic. He could easily be 1 on this list, but his lack of playoff success as an MVP winner puts him at 3. Yes, he's played the last 2 postseasons without Jamal Murray and this year's playoffs without Porter Jr. after their injuries. Other than that, you can't argue his place on the list. We saw last year that he did everything in his power to take down the Warriors, but it just wasn't enough. In his final game of the season, he put up 30 points, 19 rebounds, and 8 assists on the road. He showed why he's the MVP. He did as expected with the lack of talent around him, averaging 31, 13, and 6 in the Warriors series. Next up at 2, we got Luka Doncic. There hasn't been a prodigy who lived up to the hype around their name like Luka since LeBron James. He can do it all. A perimeter player that can control entire games single-handedly. He already has 3 All-Star appearances and first-team All-NBA selections in his first 4 seasons, and after bringing the Mavericks to the Western Conference Finals this season, he seems ready to put himself in the running for a championship. The next step for him is to step up the effort on defense and his athleticism, which he can do by getting in the gym. There is a legitimate chance he can unanimously be the best player in the league. After 4 seasons in the NBA, he already has career averages of 26, 8.5, and 8, and he hasn't even came close to reaching his potential. There doesn't appear to be a ceiling on him, which is scary for the rest of the league. I do not think anyone can argue with me when I say that Giannis Antetokounmpo is the best basketball player in the world. It's impossible to debate Giannis being anywhere other than number 1 on this list. NBA champion, Finals MVP, 2-time league MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, 6-time NBA All-Star. Do I need to say any more? Also, this past year he's become the first player to have 200 points, 100 rebounds, and 50 assists in one playoff series. Even with the series loss to the Celtics, you can't ignore what Giannis did, especially without Chris Middleton. What do you guys think about this list? Is the order correct? Did I miss anyone? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys next time.